come with me on this beautiful book finding journey. So excited to share this project with you guys. I had so much fun making this book. This is my new addiction of 2021. I'm going to get into all of the supplies, but I'm just showing you up close the hitch stitching that I decided to use for this particular project. It's also known as saddle stitch, but hitch is, at least from my research, like the looped version of the saddle stitch. And I just love it because I feel like it gives it a little bit more character. Um, know that the cover is from Flow magazine. The inside of the cover is from Anthropology, bag from Anthropology. But anyway, let's get into the supplies. All right, so I'm gonna first show you this cutter that makes it super easy to measure out and cut large sheets of paper down. It's funny. I took it from my grandmother years ago because she no longer needed it because she used to use it when she was in a photography club. But also a ruler helps, scissors, a bone fold, waxed linen thread. You can wax your own thread, but I just went ahead and purchased already waxed thread, even though it kind of leaves kungook behind, but I'll talk about that later. I got the Fiskars hand drill, and then also that little measuring tape that I created. I'll show you how to use that. Binder needles, a hole puncher is also great. Some binder clips. What else do I have in this bag of tricks? I have an X-Acto blade and a white pencil for dark sheets of paper. So of course you don't have to have all these things, but they help. And actually I would say for the thread, just buy your own linen thread and just wax it yourself because at least from what I've seen online, it's a lot less gooky, but I've already purchased uh, my wax thread, so I will be using it until I don't have any more. Okay, so when planning out your project, think about what size notebook you want, how many sheets you want inside of your notebook, and also the most important part, of course, is the cover. So I love Flow magazine. I have like three or four of their books, and basically, Flow magazine is just, for the most part, they do have like some self discovery journals and things like that, but most of their magazines are just paper that you can use in projects. So I love the illustrations that they normally have inside and the images they use. I just love lots of color. So I knew for this project I wanted to use one of the sheets in there. And then also I knew I wanted to use this anthropology bag because I had to go to anthropology to get something and I just loved the artwork on the bag. So first decide the size, then decide how thick you want the book. I decided to use 15 sheets of 9 by 12 Strathmore paper. It's medium weight. And when I felt the thickness, it felt right. I also wanted my cover to be a heavier stock. So I have like that black cardstock that I'm going to glue to the inside of the cover. For the notebook, I wanted a surprise in the middle, which is why I decided to use that one sheet in the middle. Surround yourself with people who feel like sunshine. I just thought it was absolutely perfect. And I'm going to use this book just to write ideas down for 2021, just brainstorming before, I put it into Notion to like actually plan out how I want to execute the ideas. So for me, like this is like a scrapbook, but I want a pretty scrapbook, right? So after you figure out your sheets and how big you want it and cut everything down, put everything together just to make sure it looks good. So I'm just kind of testing it out. I'm still trying to figure out the best way to adhere things to each other. There's so many different ways. So you'll see me use a couple of techniques. Here, I'm just using the dot adhesive because it wasn't super important to me that the edges were completely sealed. Like if the edges came up a little bit, it's fine because it's scrappy. But what I realized after I looked at that, I'm like, you know what? I want some texture on the inside. And so this is me just trying to figure out what that texture is. And I was like, I'm going to use the anthropology bag. And so, in using this bag, I decided to see how the glue stick works. It was terrible, terrible, y'all, terrible. By the like next day, the glue stick was like it was just coming apart. I mean, not the glue stick itself, but the bag was like coming off of the other sheet of paper. I ended up having to like squirt like a little bit of glue inside in order to really get it to stick. So I'm not a big glue stick fan. I do have a sticker machine coming soon, so I'm hoping that that'll be an easy, no mess way to adhere two sheets of paper together because I'm not a big fan of glue. So anyway, this is me just trying to like smooth everything down and just making sure that it's sticking and there's no bubbles. But of course, I'm going to find out later that it didn't take, but that's okay. So I'm just making sure everything is perfect. And yeah, I'm like, all right, I am ready. So now I learned this little trick from Sarah Matthews. I took a Zoom class of hers, and what she recommends is cutting a piece of paper to the that's the length of your book, and then fold it, and then fold it again. And once you're left with 7 creases in that fold, so you see the creases, you use that to make your holes. And so, of course, you could decide how many holes you want depending on what technique you want to use. I'm doing the 7 hole pamphlet style. So instead of marking it really with a pencil, I marked it initially just with an awl. And you can get an awl from everywhere. I've had mine for a while, and so I didn't have to buy it, but there's all different kinds. And then once I marked the holes in the middle sheet, I used binder clips to make sure that everything stayed in place. And even though I'm going to use the drill, I just went, now that everything was in place, I just took the awl again and just made sure that after I use the drill that I'm actually drilling it right in the crease so that the outside of the book isn't, like the holes aren't crooked. So it's really important that you get those binder clips in place and that you make sure that, you go through like straight through without like accidentally kind of going off track. And you have to be careful if you decide to use the hand drill, which you don't have to use. You could just use the awl. But I saw that someone use a hand drill on a Skillshare course, and I was like, I want that hand drill. But you have to be careful because that thing will drill through almost anything. I accidentally drilled through my dining room table using this drill because I didn't realize that I had, I don't know, I had cranked it way too many times. So that's why it's like on 3 layers, a cutting board, a 2 cutting boards, and a box just to make sure I don't damage anything anymore. So once you have the holes drilled, then you're going to put your thread through the needle, and you're going to go through that first hole, and then you're going to go back through it again, which will create a small loop. Now, I'm just going to show you guys just really quickly how this all turned out. I'm going to speed this up really quick, but then I'm going to, because the what I realized is since I was struggling a little bit on this first one, I didn't record it as well. So I'm going to show you the recording of another project that will show you step by step how I actually do this hitch stitch. Here is the step by step process of doing this hitch stitch. All right, so go through and leave enough uh, extra, or leave a little extra so you could tie a knot. And there is several different methods to doing this hitch stitch. I've seen at least three. I learned one from Sarah, I learned one from Skillshare, and then I saw another one on a blog. So people have different ways of doing this particular stitch. But I like this one the best. I think this one is the one that I saw on Skillshare, because it just creates this little loop at the top that allows you to start, and I just like how it looks. So here I'm just trying to figure out um, how large I want that loop to be and how much slack I need in order to tie a knot at the top. So I'm just adjusting it so I can have enough string to tie a knot to keep that little loop in place. And once I do that, I am going to go through the second hole, and I'm going to pull it through. See how that gets caught? Pain in the patootie. Okay. And then once I go through that second hole, I'm going to go through that first loop that I created. And I'm going to make sure that the string is really tight. Sorry for going off camera here. I was just struggling a little bit. And I'm going to go back through that second hole. So you see, I'm going back through that second hole after I go through the loop, and I'm pulling it through to make my first little loop. And you see all the like little pieces of paper and kind of the wax a little bit coming off, but it's easy to clean up. Okay, so once you do that, you just rinse and repeat, my friends. You go back through that third hole. There we go. There we go. Nice and tight. And then I'm going to go through both pieces of thread here. See? See how it gets caught up? There we go. All right. Once I do, I'm going to pull it nice and tight. And then I'm going to go back through that third hole. Pull it through. All right. Clean it up a little bit. Make sure everything is nice and tight. I like it. I like it a lot. Now I'm going through the fourth hole. Pull it nice and tight. And then I'm going to go through the two pieces of thread again. Stop it. Okay, there we go. And pull that nice and tight. And then I'm going to go back through. There we go. That fourth hole. There we go. There we go. And then you just do that to the very end. It's very soothing. I just love it. It's just something to get you off the computer, get you off the phone. It's very relaxing. Okay, and then once you get to that last hole, everything is in place. You can remove the binding clips. And here we're going to do a knot. And some people do single knots, some people do double knots. The reason why you have the wax is so everything stays in place and it helps everything, I guess, stick as far as what I've read. But on this particular book, I decided to do two knots, and then I'm just going to go under once and tuck that in. I also decided to do a double knot at the top, and this is why it's important to leave yourself just a little slack at the top. And so I did that knot, and I'm gonna go back through and just make sure everything is nice and neat. So back to the original book, same technique, but I just, the video was better when I was doing the little black book. So sorry for having to switch that up. But okay, so that book is finished. And so now I'm just cleaning up the edges because when you have really thick sheets of paper, then they'll start to stick out of the book outside of the cover. So if you want everything to be nice and neat um, on the edge, you'll have to take the X-Acto blade or use scissors or whatever just to clean up the edges, which I did. And yeah, so I'm just double checking, making sure everything looks good, which it does. I'm using some stickers from the Flow magazine just to add like a little touch. And then I just put something heavy on it just to flatten it out. And then later on, I actually use the corner rounder. Even though sometimes the corner rounder can create little funky corners, it doesn't want to operate all the time. But anyway, use the corner rounder just to make it a little bit more polished. Anyway, I hope that this will be helpful and useful for someone. If you want me to show you future bookbinding projects, please leave a comment below and, say more, please. All right, take care, and I will check you on the next video. Please be sure to subscribe and like. Take care.